trust me and start to know I'm in the trenches with you. I've been an educator for 30 years and graduated from the University of Lincoln back when my first year in Irving Fryer in there, a long time ago. But spent the bulk of my years, I won't give you my whole record of teaching, but a lot of my years are spent in the first and the second and the third grades teaching, and then also looping with my kids. And so just about 5 years ago, my curriculum director at Fremont Public, where I was working the last 17 years, said, hey, we're thinking about creating an instructional coaching spot. We want some support in our writing, and would you consider that? And so that'll be fun. People will love to talk about writing. But I went ahead and took that undefined position 6-7 years ago, I think it was. And so I started working in K-5 classrooms as a coach to say, here's how you can set up a place called Writing Workshop. Okay? And I learned a lot from the teachers that I worked alongside. I did resign from Fremont Public just this last spring. It was a hard decision, but I wanted to do more of this. This is one of my second job that I've done for 10 years. It's independent staff developer. I don't work for an ESU. I just do this on my own, and it started with Papillion 10 years ago. So I'm working with up to 25 districts in just Nebraska because the spotlight is on writing, and I'm excited about that. I just returned from Scottsbluff last week, was out there for 2 days. Grand Island, North Platte is all in with Lucy Falcon's work. So it's exciting. It's an honor for me to be here as well. My third job is teaching for Doane College. I teach a graduate course that I've had, it's stayed alive for 10 years. It's one same course. I teach it about 7 times a year. Grand Island, North Platte, Lincoln, and Omaha. So I'm here every Monday night in Omaha and Wednesdays in Lincoln. So come join me this summer if you want. I'm inventing a new class too about growing writers in a reading workshop. So it'll be about teaching reading in a workshop setting too. I also have one more job that I took on this fall, teaching undergrads at Midland University. And so I thought, well, they'll believe everything I say. Won't that be easy? And it's kind of tough. They're pretty savvy, and I'm glad. So thanks for having me here. I'm in a lot of your Omaha Public Schools now inside classrooms. And that's where I spend the bulk of my time is coaching, modeling the mini lesson. Teachers shadow me as I confer one-on-one with kids and in small groups, and then bring everybody back for share time. So that's something that we can grow over time too, but that's where I learn a lot. So that's a little bit about me. I wanted to start this morning with a piece of writing from a 4th grader that I think helps set the tone for why we're here. It's Friday, and I've got chocolate. What a fabulous breakfast, you guys. That's a unique offering there. I mean, what a fabulous principle. And then I have a lot of door prizes we'll look at in a minute too, so life is good. Huh? This is a 4th grader that drafted a piece, and Fremont has high mobility, above state average ELL, much like some of the profiles in your buildings. And I want to read to you the message that he brought to all of us, teachers and teachers of writing especially. He writes, the next day was going to be our last day in Guatemala. We were on summer vacation at that time, and I enjoyed it very much. I didn't want to leave, but I had to. First, our parents called my whole family outside, and I got scared. In my head, I thought, why are they calling everybody out? What's going on? And then my dad gave my whole family a serious look, and I got worried. My dad asked, who wants to leave to the United States to study, or who wants to stay in Guatemala with Mom and my 2 older brothers? My mom and my 2 older brothers, they didn't have a choice. They had to stay. They didn't have papers. The minute my dad asked that question, my body felt dark. I felt like there was a huge thunderstorm going on in my body, and I started to cry. I was a little glad that they decided to discuss this with our whole family, but I was still sad. I ran straight to my mom, and I hugged her, and I didn't want to let go. I started to cry harder. I realized everybody was crying. Even my oldest brother was crying. The only one that wasn't was my dad. And I wanted to be strong like him and stop, but I couldn't stop crying. It felt like the fun time in Guatemala had flied by. And then I looked in my dad's eyes and I said, I want to go. I want to go and study. And it goes on. It's a heartbreaking scene at the airport as well that he's drafted. But that's what we're grounded in. Is the students understand there's a promise here, and that we're going to give them some tools and skills and social skills to help find a better way. Okay, so hold on to that this morning, and I appreciate that you've established norms and respect for me. That's really kind. We will turn and talk. We'll take some walks. We'll take a 10, 12-minute break. We'll kind of aim for halfway through, 10 o'clock-ish. And it'll go fast. So keep this in your hearts and minds, though, as we talk about teaching writing and working with these sweet kids. Let me show you the door prizes that I brought. And you might think, well, she doesn't need to spend that much time describing them. But I do want to show you how all of you can use these in your writing workshops. And somewhere, even sometimes in your other, I know the specialists are sitting here, and I appreciate that. Possibly that might be something you could use as well. One of the pieces that you're going to love about teaching in a workshop setting, and workshop's just not for writing. Workshop can be how you deliver your physical education instruction. Workshop should definitely be for some of your coaches in athletics. I know our art teachers probably already deliver it that way. Workshop setting is a place where the differentiation is deep and the learning is explicit and direct. A principal in Fremont said, I'm embarrassed. He said that I didn't do this in my 8th grade social studies. He said it's so effective, and it became the best part of my day. In 2002, I drove to Kansas City to see Lucy Calkins speak, and I purchased her units of study that were for sale that first year, because that was the what that I didn't have. I wanted a workshop set in a child-centered place, but a lot of you might be thinking, I don't want that. That's that lava lamp, incense burning, beanbag chair kind of place, hanging out, loosey-goosey. Quite the contrary, it's highly, highly structured. Every day is the same, because how can you take something so personal, dynamic, and moldable as writing and put it in a teacher's guide? So it really did become the best part of my day. And some of my toughest clients, the teachers that pushed back really hard, they would come back, not because of me, but because of the workshop setting, and say, okay, this is kind of the best part of my day. And I know my kids deeper and better than I've ever known them in all the years I've been teaching. So you'll love that aspect of it too. We'll have a few winners here today. I brought 6, 7 prizes. One thing is a little cubicle thingy of a cube of Post-it notes, okay? No big deal, but one of the things we're going to talk about this morning is how constant in this place called workshop, you're giving your kids feedback. It's direct, it's specific, and teachers, that's game changer. Heard the name John Hattie? I'll show you the cover of his book in my slideshow. He looked for us. He said, all right, teachers, let's look back at millions of students. I think he looked back 15, 20 years, and every study that was ever done on what helps learners grow in a way that's accelerated. Is it class size? Well, then we better get our class size down to 12. Wouldn't that be fun? Is it that thing? Oh, is it the schools, like this morning, the kids that were here having a before school program, eating some breakfast? Is that what's doing it? Oh, maybe it's the schools that are having an after school program where they sit with mentors. Is that what's making the difference? There was a lot of things on the list he found. Not all of them helped kids grow. But you know what the number one thing was that helped children grow and grow effectively in a way that was strong? It's you. The teacher in that classroom matters. But it's not any old teacher, right? It's a teacher that provides feedback in the midst of that child's work. On your knees is how I confer. I'm on my knees beside the kids, talking to them about possibly all the smart things they've done to build on, and what's their one next best step. Okay? So that, we'll look at the power of that. So this is one way for you to stick a little note on their writing folder. K4, you'll have writing folders until they get the laptops. And maybe in third and fourth, you'll have writer's notebooks as well. I've seen kids hold on to those notes for months. Another piece that I'm offering is a little date stamp with an ink pad. This is a great way. Some of you might be thinking today, well, how do you keep those other 27 kids engaged while you're conferring one-to-one? That sounds impossible. This is one way to, just talk to a child every day and just say, so, Stefan, what's your plan today? How far are you going to get? You're going to get 3 lines and 2 picture boxes. That's great. Can we just mark where you're starting or mark where you're going to get to? And the second purpose of this, teachers, is it can be the child loves to pick it up and stamp their new piece. And that way you're like, okay, keep those pieces. Don't send them home. Keep the August piece that looks kind of scribbly and random. It'll be scary at first what they produce possibly, but keep those to show the breakthroughs and the huge growth that you see, okay? And they'll stamp it all over their arm. Yeah, you do what you do with helping them realize the tools and the respect for those kind of things. Today we'll talk about not only the structure of a workshop setting and how to set one up, but also we'll talk about the heart of teaching writing, and that's conferring. And let me show you mine. So you have a picture of what these 2 gifts are. I brought a multi-pocketed folder that's a conferencing toolkit. And so if you're on Twitter, this is where you'll see a lot of fabulous things coming out of Teachers College, Lucy's College, all her staff developers. I'll give you a website today with 2 amazing teachers of writing to follow. My Twitter handle's on the cover if you want to just follow me and stalk me. You don't have to tweet anything, just stay in the shadows, don't be scared, and then follow my followers. You'll see some really helpful writing teachers. But this is what I carry with me while I move among them to confer and talk to them about their next best step. Inside is my own writing. Teachers hate that one, okay? Showing them how you did it. Can I pull this out and talk to you about how I did it? Yeah, I felt stuck too. I couldn't think of one thing to write about. Another pocket is other children's writing. And you'll get some, you probably have some already, and you'll get some every day that you could teach fabulous teaching points from. And then finally, the other third power chip you have is mentor texts, right? Why aren't they learning from these people that pick up their pencil and make money from it and do it well? So we'll look at that as well. I can put in some cheat sheets that I'm creating, inventing, word wall words, what to do when you feel done, and then maybe some other paper templates, paper matters, and some more conferencing forms. And I included one in your packet today. The other one is a clipboard. Hey, PE teachers, isn't that good? Trying to bring you in. I bless you for being here today. But I like to carry this kind because in mine, I can keep my forms on the front, and I can carry with me photos, other mentor texts, other children's writing, my own writing, Post-it notes, little flags. It's another way, a different way to carry all the stuff that you want to demonstrate when you're conferring, okay? Here's a couple more. This one sounds like a kind of a but pencils with a big can. Okay, until they get their iPads and Chromebooks, they really need a ton of pencils. And one of your biggest issues up front will be the kid that's standing, facing a wall, grinding his pencil away. It's a really good way to get out of about 6 minutes of writing every day. And they figure it out quickly, as young as kindergarten. And so just keeping a big old fat gigantic stash of pencils that are already sharpened, and they trade real quick with that. So it sounds kind of cheesy, but it's a huge deal in a writing workshop. Finally, for the risk taker in the room, the you take it, you have to like it bag. And you have to show us what you did when you hear that kind of personality, okay? Our first winner has a sticker on the back of your packet. Come on up, you get to pick what you want to take home.
Congratulations, Karen. Congratulations.
I felt that when I got here early this morning that as crazy as things can be, your custodian had none of this set up. There were kids running around playing. He was calmly setting things up. Your principal was like, yeah, this is how we roll. Everyone's so kind and keeps smiling through all this stuff. That's a powerful thing. I appreciate your kindness. As you heard me say, I hope writing becomes the best part of your day. It's very personal. It's not like any other kind of skill that you're going to teach during the day. It's not a content area that you have to teach. It's a gift. It's a life skill that you're going to give your kids. Teachers, there's so much power in writing, and I'm going to kind of fly through the power that it holds, but I want you to start paying attention, recognizing in your own life and helping your students to recognize it as well daily throughout your day, the power that those words on a piece of paper hold. Okay? When I left my first graders to take that literacy instructional coaching job at Fremont years ago, it was in January, which was very sad. And to tell your kids goodbye mid-year was very awkward. And I walked out with one of my toughest little guys, Patrick, and he reached up and grabbed my hand on the way out as we walked towards the bus. And he said, who am I going to tell my stories to? So he learned that our lives matter, regardless of poverty and address. We all have things to write about, and our lives matter. Okay? To prove that further, here's a story about the threads and the small stones. You're not going to say to your kids, well, did you do something exciting this weekend? Can you write about something really big you've done? That's what I used to say. I didn't know any different. I thought it had to be Disney World or Funplex or the Amazing Pizza Machine. It doesn't have to be that. When Lucy Kaufman sent her son to a brand new school kind of late in the year, they had just moved, she and he did not know that every Friday was show and tell. So all the kids would gather around and show their toys that beep and bop, and her son had nothing. So the first day, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a thread, a string, and he showed it to everyone like this so they could all admire the thread, the string. And he said, this is a string from my blankie. And if you roll it in your hands like a snowball, it becomes a love ball. And he handed that little love ball to his brand new friend he was making in the front row. Well, the next Friday came, show and tell again. Still, the mom and the son are unaware of this ritual of bringing all this flashy stuff in to show and talk about. So little Miles gets up on the show and tell chair, and he's digging around, and he pulls a rock out of his shoe. And he says, this stone He says, it's something my family does everywhere we go. If we go to the beach, I pick up a stone and then we can hold it in our hands and remember all the fun we had at the beach. And this pebble can remind us of the mountains that we went and visited and how beautiful they were. And he says, but this one's from the big church. And he says, when I hold it in my hand and close my eyes, I can really remember how boring church was. And this is, I hope, a shift for you right away this morning in our little bit we've been together. Because you're not going to coach them into, what, do you have a dog? Do you have a kitty? Have you been to, you don't have to go down the road anymore of 20 questions. I'll unlock the strategies for you today that I learned from these 30 years of research. That one way writers unstuck themselves is to think of people that matter. All humans have people that matter. It might not be mom and dad, but they all have people that matter. And then you're in business. You've got grandma. You've got 52 stories or slices of time with grandma. Okay? So we'll unlock those this morning as well. Real quickly, here's some things you can start attending to. Watch for how powerful it is to hold your life, how fleeting it is, right? By putting it down and holding some of that in your hands, that's very powerful. Here's what the State Department is meeting on September 25th, how our children will be asked to respond with text evidence to some of the things they read through writing. When you take notes today and look at it 3 weeks from now, you'll be, okay, let me think a little bit more about what I'm thinking about that, holding on to it. This is a gift. Writing allows us to look back and remember things that we've forgotten about. I hope your kids that you work with jar memories from your childhood. Maybe right there on your front page you can write the writing that you are modeling is 80% you as a kid. Jot that number down. When you pull out your writing folder that you made just like theirs, you should have one too. That's your first prep, is a writing folder to keep our stuff in. You should have one too. And you don't need 17 stories in there every day, a brand new story you're looking out, or another how-to procedural writing, or another informational book you've drafted. Have one or two really good ones in there that teach a lot. Okay? And then you can tell stories from your childhood in that narrative season that you're in. Here's what you'll love about it too. You'll watch your kids start to realize they're a lot alike. They're going to build relationships with others, and you can plant seeds and say, I said it sometime this week over at Bell Ryan. I was in some classrooms, and I said, now, if you wanted to know more about when Mauricio was over at his friend's house, you could talk to him at recess more about that. And they smiled and nodded. They thought that they'd like to hear more about that story and realize that sometimes they're bullied, sometimes they're left out, sometimes they're feeling embarrassed. They start to realize, hey, we have a lot in common. And we always knew it as teachers, but writing has research now that it heals. The act of putting things down on paper and then sharing them is very healing. This is Ty Hansen, the all class gold this year at State Track in the mile and the 800. He lost his identical twin brother to a car accident 3 years ago. And you can see his gesture there at the end of his race, what drove him. And there's a 3-page layout this spring in the Omaha World Herald about Ty and Trey. And the stories in here are powerful. I knew the family. I prayed with them. I held them up. We hugged together. We cried together. Reminisced together. The things that Ty is able to tell now is very, very healing. And things I didn't know. That he crawled into his brother's bed at Creighton before they let him go and slept with him. brought his little blankie that they had from childhood. It's very healing to walk through and remember some of those things. Why don't you turn and talk just for a couple minutes? What's maybe a tool that you saw that's a door prize you might think about making for yourself or your children? Or evidence of power of writing in your own life. Will you turn and talk to the person beside you about that?